a lot of people these days, secular, religious as well, kind of battle the idea of what is the role of faith in the world right now. You know, I feel like a lot of the secular world wants to separate the idea of the church and the government. And rightfully so, seeing as there's a lot of controversies in the past and so on. But I don't think that's what the church wants. And, you know, by church, I'm predominantly referring to the Catholic Church, as that is the biggest institute in the world and the one that most people are familiar with. But this can refer to any church. You know, the ones that we attend, none of us are Catholic. Yeah. So I want to know, what's your opinion on how can the church be more involved in people's lives, especially people that have turned away from the faith or have been, you know, turned off from it by bad actors of the faith? What can the church do to still have that impact in its life or impact in the lives of others, but not encroach on people's rights?
I think mainly the first thing about being a Christian in the church is to be human first. I think it should be a space where you can welcome people to come and they can pour out their problems, they can pour out their emotions, they can have a space in which they can find advice, because it needs to be a space where you want to see good people. Just like as you go to a therapist when, you know, you have maybe a mental issue, you go to a doctor when you're sick. I think it should be a place to go when you're facing challenges in life and you go and you seek advice from people which have gone through similar situations and have gone through similar circumstances and, you know, are able to be a guide. And I think it also should start with the church looking at themselves. I really do believe that it'll be very hard for outsiders to look in and see that if the church is not united, if the church is not following really the true essence of what it means to be a Christian, it'll be very hard for other people to come through and try and embody that same characteristics. So I think it really does come down to being human first, you know, trying to interact and connect with someone on a human level before trying to shove, you know, truth down their throat. Because something I read recently is truth without grace is just very harsh, you know. But in the element you need with grace without truth is just being kind, you know, you're not really being honest with the person. So I think you need a combination of the two. You need that truth that you need to be able to spread of what really life is about, how you should be, how you should move. But there should be some grace with it. And that grace comes with being human first, you know, relating to people on a more human level before trying to shove rules and regulations down their throat, you know, understanding people.
Yeah, it's super interesting because that's the approach from the perspective of people in the church, not necessarily from the church's perspective, right? Because people forget like the church is an organized entity that is involved in society. And it did used to be a lot more involved, maybe to its detriment, maybe that led to some corruption and whatnot. I do think there is a need for them to have more public-facing people. Because right now, the only person you know really in the church is like the Pope and no one else. Well, then back in the day, like the biggest contributors to the church, and by church now I'm meaning exclusively the Catholic Church, as that was the only one around back then, was actually people outside of the church. You know, I think of St. Thomas Aquinas, who was not, he didn't, to my knowledge at least, he didn't give sermons, he didn't preach at the church, but he was one of the founders of it. And like to this day, the Summa Theologica is one of the books I recommend most to people when they get into, or when they want to get into religion, right? I think the Catholic Church has lost that a little bit. It's kind of strayed away from academia because academia has bitten it a few times. Like the new atheist people that came around in the early 2000s and whatnot. But there's a lot of like figures now that embody the church very well that aren't really represented by them. You know, weshuff and is it Cliff Connectley?
Cliff, I know Cliff.
Cliff Connectley. And some other people that they belong to their own denominations, but they don't really represent the Catholic Church. I think there should maybe be an attempt of like the Catholic Church to wrap their arms around these people, bring them in, have open conversations with them, because they can probably be the best representatives for the Catholic Church, even though they're not officially a part of it. You agree with that?
To a certain extent, I feel like if the main goal, which is for the church and the Catholic Church, like it is part of, I'd say, Christianity, we're on the same team. And because they do have such a history and a global presence in our world today, I think it would be a good access for people to get into it and to embody like Christianity and the government and the church, you know, being more of a unified presence. I think it could be a good idea. I'm not 100% sure, but it's up for debate. I don't have the answers right now, but I'm hearing you, and I think it could be a very good development. We need people who in public places who have a strong opinion and strong influence to be a part of the church, to work together with the church. I think that could be a fantastic idea, just representative, because they're in the forefront of the media and all that. And if people can see the type of person they are, and the ideologies, and what they believe in, and if that aligns with the church, even if you don't want a brand name that's where you belong, so to say, but you follow the same ideas on a broader scale within the Christianity spectrum, I think it could be a good stepping stone for people just to explore and be open to that idea.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like the people that view as very secular, and secular views aren't very popular in Christianity right now, but there's a lot of secular people.
Yeah.
So, appeal to apples of apples kind of thing. But I guess it's not all doom and gloom. And I want to read some stats here that might cheer you up a little bit. So there's this article by a guy called, his name's Theo, but he has an article called Theo's Think Tank, where he just discusses things of this nature, religion and politics and so on. And he recently wrote a piece on, is Christianity growing again? And he referenced some very interesting stats. So in the demographic of people aged 18 to 24 in the UK, the number of people who claim to believe in God had risen from 16% in August 2021 to 45% in August 2025. So that's an increase of about 29% odd. People aged 25 to 49 had also grown from 21% to 33%. In America, it was found people who claimed to have made a personal commitment to Jesus that is still important to their life had risen from 54% in 2021 to 66% in 2025. With the biggest increase coming in Gen Z men rising by 19% and millennial men rising by 15%. So I kind of want to ask you, why do you think the Western world seems to be coming back to Christianity? And why do you think it seems, at least in America, that it's actually majority men that are coming back to it right now?
I definitely think there is a global revival in Christianity. I think we're heading to a space where there's a lot of dark cloud over the world. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think what I also read recently, or read last year actually, when I was going through a phase, is pain could be, or it's in Ecclesiastes where the author says like he values pain more than pleasure. It's because when you are in a painful place, it can lead you to find something to hold on to, something to grab onto, something to save you. And I think especially coming out of COVID and the aftermath of that, people are looking for something more fulfilling. People had time to sit down and think and be in their thoughts and be in the house. People's relatives, family members, friends passed away. People were going through like such a horrible time. I think, that pain does lead you to want to explore and ask the question, like, what is the point of life? Why am I going through certain things, And that's where God reveals themselves to people, It did take an unfortunate experience for me as well to see that light. Sometimes life can be out of your control. And if you look at the state of the world right now, like we're at a very big turning point. I think there's a big division between, I think, men and women specifically as well, and just like the government and the people. Like there's a very big dichotomy. There's a very big separation and gap between ideas and people. So I think people are just trying to seek something less, media driven, less of what they've seen like in the past, and more something within themselves, and that could lead to maybe a spiritual journey. So I do believe, like, especially with men, I think that I think since the late 90s, it's been a very tough period for men in terms of, like, I'm not against women like getting their own independence, and women doing their own thing.
Being pro-man is not being anti-woman.
Yes. But it does impose, especially with media and a whole lot of stuff, like having access to stuff on the internet, X-rated stuff. Like, it has really brought down what really I would think a man should be. So there's left side of saying, you're not a man, I can do stuff for myself, and there's the other side saying, when I'm vulnerable and I'm a certain way, you think less of a man, and therefore the image of a man is really construed. People are just trying to look for something, trying to just grab on to something to get them out of the space that they're in.
I heard a really interesting thought on this, where someone talking from the American perspective, especially this demographic of like aged 18 to 24, the really young people, Gen Z people, especially in America, what happened was they were brought up when the world was kind of like America is the powerhouse.
Yeah.
America runs everything. America is the gold standard for things. And they were told their whole life how great America is. And America even branched out to try and help other countries, you know, provide relief, assist in wars, help South Vietnam and South Korea and stuff like that. And now we've entered this place where everything's really not turning up roses for anybody, you know? And I think people in America are kind of feeling done in by the government, you know? They've been preached the whole time that it's this amazing place, and they're not seeing the benefits of that. But they're seeing, you know, as recently as Trump invading Venezuela, they see a lot of like care, or not care, but attention and funding going into external politics and not feeling the same attention applied to them. And I think that's a big contributing factor to Americans turning towards Christianity or turning towards religion in general, right? This isn't like a exclusivistic chat, because it feels like they've been done in by the government and they're looking for something that they feel won't do them in. Another thing that's maybe more controversial is there's been a lot of mass migration to the UK in particular and America. And one of the interesting things for me is at the end of that new atheist movement, they had that one study that they loved referencing where they said, you know, there's a correlation between intelligence and atheism.
Okay.
And that study was flaunted around a lot in the early 2000s. And recently they decided to redo the study. And what they found was it's not necessarily true and depends how you track it and where you track it. And in some cases, that's actually a correlation between intelligence and religious affiliation. And what they found was actually the main contributing factor to people leaving their religious faith was a lack of credibility. So the idea that they don't see other people actively practicing their faith, it makes them less likely to practice it. And that harkens true to a lot of things. I mean, if you think of the start of Christianity, it was martyrs that made Christianity popular, right? And it was very easy for people to believe when they saw other people willing to die for that same belief.
100%.
And with the mass migration of people from the Middle East, they have strong credibility. You know, they are willing to pray 5 times a day, mosque every single Friday, wear traditional garments, jeep, everything, not eat pork, not drink. And seeing other people so sure in their faith has probably led to people of America and England or the UK to see, okay, maybe there's something more to it. And maybe exploring Islam doesn't satisfy the itch. For a lot of people, it does.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people turn back to what they already know, which is what they were brought up with, which is Christianity as it was taught in schools for such a long time. I think that has a huge, huge contribution. But on the topic of Europe, I want to discuss like one final point, and this is from the Pew Research Center. If you're not familiar with them, the Pew Research Center does a lot of religious and demographic studies across the world. And they release some censuses every couple of years, and they released a census in 2020, where they found of the entire Christian population on Earth, Sub-Saharan Africa had the largest percentage of Christians at 30.7%. Latin America was second at 24.1%. And Europe was at third at 22.3%. But this is down significantly from 25.8% in 2010. You know, historically, I think Christianity was viewed as the white man's religion, or if you want to put it in a less controversial way, at least the European man's religion.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's a case that now it seems to have kind of shifted, and it seems more that third world countries are leaning into religion while first world countries are leaning into secularism?
The first thing that pops in my mind would be that I think life in Europe has become, for the lack of word, is easy. So to say, you can get through life without needing, I would say, like a spiritual
element.
A spiritual element to it. You know, like if every day you live in life, you got free healthcare maybe or whatever, and you know everything. So I just need to go to uni, get a job, and I'm sorted like for the rest of my life. There's no aspect of like I need to turn to something. You know, like when I'm in a space where I just need like help. You know, trouble. I think when you realize if you've got all these material things that you can work with, there's no need for a God or a savior. Like I'm good on earth, and you know I've satisfied all my desires to some certain extent. And I think the struggles within Africa, so to say, is that I think it's been pushed to know that your life is not completely like done here on earth. Like obviously you have a short period of time which you'll be living on earth. You may suffer for now, but there's something beyond, and that gives people hope. That gives people like more of like, okay, cool, like my circumstances right now where I'm and my surroundings may not be the greatest, but like I'm just going to enjoy life to the fullest, and I'm going to keep trying doing that, knowing that there's a greater reward for me in eternity. Well, that's just from my point of view, I would sort of say.
I was going to ask, do you think the most prominent part of your faith, what faith means to you, is someone there while you struggle, knowing you're not alone through things?
Yes, because I feel like I do believe like the difference between someone who hasn't experienced Christ or someone who has, I think is in terms of living life, we'll all go through the same troubles, we'll all face similar battles, but there is an internal peace knowing that there's someone there to help you, and that you are looking forward to something. There's a hope, there's a future, that whatever is going on in my life, it's for a plan and a purpose, and it's going to turn out for the benefit of either maybe now on earth or eternally in my soul. I can keep hold to that. And even when I'm struggling, I'm going through something, there's someone who's done this before and is there with me, but also the fact that like you, without a personal like really encounter, like you really can wonder going through life with the void, trying to fill it with other things, and you get to a point where you realize like none of that really like does satisfy you. And then you realize like, well, when you get to that encounter, you realize this is touching my soul in a way that I've never felt before. Like it's not anything near than drugs, the sex, the partying, the whatever. You get to that point where it's like, okay, cool, like
there's something more.
Yeah, there's something like this feels like where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do, what I'm supposed to seek. And the more you do it, the more you see the fruits of that, And at the end of the day, I feel like it's just a very good way to live. Like, it's very hard to see why you would not want to, follow something that says, love everybody, be kind, look at yourself before creating a brother, help a brother when he's in need, pray for people. It's very, for me, it's like, it's.
Yeah, there's a philosopher from, I think, the 1800s that kind of spoke to this, where he was an avid Christian, but he was raised by 2 priests.
Yeah.
And his whole branch of philosophy kind of goes around, I don't believe in Christianity, but if you follow the tenets of Christianity, it leads to a pretty good life.
Yeah.
And, if that's the starting point for people, then I'm quite okay with that. I think there's this very interesting take by, I believe his name is Arthur Brooks, who he says, if you don't believe, we don't tell people get fit and then go to the gym. We tell people go to the gym and you'll get fit. Same thing is like you don't have faith first, you act first, and then the faith comes with. So he encourages people like try reading the Bible, try going to a few like sermons, try going to a Bible study, and you'll see yourself starting to believe naturally. You don't have to believe first to go there. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that clip from the interview of Agu. If you want to come onto the podcast, remember all are welcome. Just fill in the form in the description and we'll see if we can have you on. If you want to watch the full podcast, click on the link here. If you want to watch anything else from the channel, click on the link here. Thanks for watching, guys.